guys, coming to you live from Roman Empire Gym again. We're gonna be hitting a bench day. This is gonna be the last bench day of my training block as a hybrid bodybuilder powerlifter. I'm gonna be competing in my first powerlifting meet in about 3 years. Really excited to get back on the platform. Training has been going awesome. I'm feeling healthy for the first time with no knee pain, probably in the last 10 years. So I'm excited to see what I can do. Ultimately, the goal is gonna be to take that 242 all-time Canadian squat record, which stands at 826. It's currently held by Amit Sapir. And I'm gonna be hoping for an 832 squat to take that record, and then going for that 2K total, something I've been chasing since I started powerlifting. I've come really close. I totaled 1960 at 242 back in 2016. And I've only gotten bigger and stronger since then, but I haven't been healthy enough to put it on the platform. I have no knee pain, I have no pec tears, I have no, quad pain, IT band pain, and my hip has been feeling fantastic. So all the things that have been plaguing me over the last actually 2016, that was 8 years ago. All the things that have been plaguing me for the last 8 years and preventing me from putting it all together are gone. I'm healthy and I'm ready to rock. So let's take you through this bench day. First exercise of our warm-up is gonna be a half kneeling thoracic contour. All you're gonna need for this one is a wall. It's gonna be kind of a global thoracic spine mobility exercise. As I mentioned in my back training video, if we want the shoulder blades to move properly around the rib cage, we need proper thoracic rotation and extension, which is gonna be very, very important when stabilizing that barbell on our bench press. So we're gonna start by mobilizing our thoracic spine here today. Big benefit of that exercise is that we're in that split stance position. So we're actually opening up our hips at the same time, which if you want a good setup on the bench press, you have to have mobile hips to set those feet be able to drive through the floor. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to maintain even foot pressure on that front foot, tension through the hips through squeezing that back glute. So we're in hip extension on that back leg, and then going through some global thoracic extension, flexion, and rotation through the upper body. It's a very challenging movement for me. I'm very limited through those ranges of motion, so spending some extra time at the beginning of my workouts really helps open things up, mobilize and stabilize concurrent. Next two exercises we're gonna do within this rotation are breathing drills, essentially trying to drive air into different portions of our rib cage. So this is going to be a low sit reach. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep pressure through my whole foot, primarily on my heels, and then rock my pelvis underneath me, so be on the posterior of my sit bones. And then I'm just gonna be really lazy with my upper body, try to relax my traps. Inhale through my nose, send some air into my upper back to open up my shoulder blades, and then exhale through my diaphragm and pull up through my pelvic floor. This is gonna send some air into that posterior rib cage, create some space so that my shoulder blades can move a little bit more freely. So about 10 to 12 deep breaths here. Some important cues is as I'm breathing, I'm trying to feel some tension in my hamstrings, so I'm almost trying to leg curl the floor into myself. The other thing I'm trying to do is, as I exhale, I'm gonna create tension in my abs. So I'm breathing out through my transverse abdominis, those deep abdominal muscles. And then as I inhale through my nose into my upper back, I'm trying to keep that tension in my abs. So the tension in my abs is building through the set, the expansion in my upper back is building through. Last exercise in this circuit is going to be a cross-body tricep extension breath. So what I'm doing here, soft knees, pelvis underneath rib cage. I'm trying to contract into that extended posture with my chest high. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and drive some air into my upper pecs, so into my clavicles, upper ribs. Again, very tight pecs. So trying to get into shoulder extension, so bring the elbows behind my body is challenging. So by practicing sending air to that area, I can loosen up that musculature and get more access to those ranges. 10 to 12 deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the diaphragm, sucking in the belly, activating that TVA, keeping knees soft. And as I build tension through the abdominals, same thing with the sit and reach. I'm trying to drive air up into my rib cage and contract those abdominals, keep them tight. Tough to see much of anything happening, but I can tell you after doing these breathing drills, my rib cage feels more open, my shoulders able to move more freely. I'll go through that rotation twice through, about 6 reps per side on the thoracic contour, 10 to 12 deep breaths on the breathing drill, and then we're right into the workout. All right, now we're getting into our bench press. Last time I went through this iteration of the bench, I did 150 kilos or 335 pounds for 5 sets of 3, about 2 minutes rest. All we're gonna do today is we're just gonna add a rep. So we're gonna do 5 sets of 4, about 2 minutes rest at 335 and have a good time. The key here is just consistency of effort. The sets are gonna be relatively far away from failure, working on our technique, maintaining tension all the way to the chest, driving through all the way to lockout. Bench press is notoriously one of the most challenging lifts for me. I don't know why, it's just always been a struggle. There are a few things that I have adopted that have really helped. The first is really maximizing the ability to engage my tricep. So what I've been doing is setting the bar a little bit lower in my hand, keeping the pressure on the pinky to be able to drive through that tricep. The other is putting my feet flat and trying to get a little bit more leg drive out of the bench press. Whereas before I was tucking my feet under and trying to maximize my arch, which worked to a point, but it was limiting my ability to engage my lower body. So flattening out the feet, using the triceps, trying to develop as much speed off the chest as possible. Usually my warm-up sets, I'll do a plate for about 10 reps, 2 plates for 5 reps, 275 for a couple, 315 for 1, and then I'll go into my working sets. All right, this is something I see butchered all the time, so I figured I would correct it first and foremost. When people wrap their wrists, what they tend to do is they'll just wrap around the wrist over and over and over again. And it does absolutely nothing. I can still move my wrist freely. What you want to do is wrap around the back of your hand, then come around the wrist a little bit lower, then back around the back of your hand, and then finish around that wrist joint. Now my wrist is fixed in that position and there's wrap behind my wrist to prevent it from rolling back. That's going to provide you support while you bench press. All right, warm-up's done. We're ready to get into our working sets. A few things to notice. Number 1, I'm using a kilo bar. Number 2, none of these plates match. Number 3, none of that fucking matters. Just lift the weights. Stop being a mental midget. All right, heading into this last set, done 4 sets of 4 so far. Technique's a little inconsistent, so I'm gonna try and dial this one in. What you'll notice is I'm not actually getting all the way to my chest per se. What I'm actually trying to do is bench to my t-shirt and not bench to my chest. That's allowing me to stay much tighter on the eccentric and then have full tension in order to explode through to the lockout. A wee bit better on that set, but still work to do. On to accessories. All right, first assistance movement is going to be a machine flat press. I'm using a neutral grip here, and I've also added bands around the bottom. What that's going to allow me to do is drive more output through my triceps. And this is what we talk about when we talk about personalizing your assistance work for your needs. My lockout is definitely the area of my bench press where I need the most work, which means that I need to have more explosive triceps. So by manipulating my assistance work in very subtle ways, I can drive more tricep output while still getting, that pec stimulus that I'm after with my assistance work. So with this machine flat press, I'm gonna go with a neutral grip, obviously drive more triceps there. And by using the band, it's gonna be harder as I get to lockout where those triceps are gonna start to kick on. So I'm driving more output through my triceps with the neutral grip and with the band, but still getting the stimulus to my pecs of a flat press. Some subtle cues here that will help with activating those triceps. Number 1, pressing through that pinky. So trying to keep the pinky pressure through the entire press. If you notice during the set, I kind of struggled with that. It's because I'm trying to compensate for those weaker triceps. The other thing is, instead of trying to press away from you, try to press yourself back into the bench. That's gonna get your chest up nice and tall and give you a much more stable platform to bench from. So we got 2 sets here. This is going to be my down set, my second set. We're gonna perform this set with a 3-second pause on the bottom. Let's be honest, 2 to 3 second pause on the bottom. I really like using isometrics for a few reasons. The first is it gives us more time under tension in those positions where we need the most motor control. So for me, struggling to get into that shoulder extension, I spend more time in that shoulder extension when I do an isometric pause there. The other thing is it helps with our coordination and timing. So I can spend that time making sure that I have a mind-muscle connection to my triceps and pecs and make sure that out of the bottom I'm firing with those muscles as opposed to just trying to move the weight from A to B. So you'll see my cadence is much slower. I'm focused on connecting with the muscles I'm trying to train, those pecs and triceps, and I'm trying to stay within that same consistent groove and get into as deep of a stretch as possible in that pause. All right, next up we have my favorite tricep exercise, is a Smith JM press. JM press, very simple. It's kind of a hybrid between a tricep extension and a close grip bench. When you're doing it on a Smith machine, it locks you into that path, so you really only have to focus on the output of the triceps. If you struggle with lockout, this is a fantastic exercise. The key here is as you bring that bar down, you're trying to drive your elbows up as high as possible. Don't let the elbows drop further than you need to achieve the desired range of motion, and then you're pressing through those triceps as explosively as possible out of the bottom. So I don't know if you counted, but I did 17. Rep range was 12 to 15. I overshot my rep range, but the set is not over until you reach failure. So if I have 3 sets in between 12 to 15 reps and I overshoot that first set, it just means I need to go up for that second set. Do not cut your reps short just because you're outside of some arbitrary rep range. Hypertrophy exists from 3 to 30 plus reps, as long as you train within a close proximity to failure. Had I stopped at 15, I would have missed out on 2 effective reps that potentially led to some tricep growth. So don't be tied to arbitrary rep ranges. The set's not over when you hit your rep target. This set's over when you reach failure. So second set, I added 20 pounds, got 10 reps. So we're gonna stick with that 20-pound jump. Try to either match or come like 8 to 10 reps for this one. All right, so next up, we're gonna do a mobility-oriented superset. We're gonna do some pike push-ups. So feet elevated pike push-ups. What we're working on here is the upward and downward rotation of the scapula. So getting into that overhead position. Because we're in a pike, what we're also doing is we're activating our low abdominals and our serratus to help us stabilize the rib cage on top of the pelvis as those shoulder blades move. So you're getting a hypertrophy stimulus because we're gonna be working close to failure, but we're also getting those secondary and tertiary effects of torso stability and scapular control. We're gonna superset that with a prone swimmer on a ball. And why we're doing it on a ball is just to put our rib cage in a more open position, because that compression in the front from the ball will open up the posterior and let our shoulder blades rotate. So we're getting a loaded mobility exercise with a hypertrophy emphasis, then right into a more scapulothoracic control oriented movement with the prone swimmer. All right, that's a wrap on bench day here at Roman Empire Gym. Started off with some delt work, get some blood into the shoulders, then into our comp pressing, and then into a lot of heavy tricep work, finishing off with some shoulders, more of mobility oriented superset to kind of open things up before we head home. Bench is gonna be a really important lift for me to improve, and knowing that next week I'm transitioning more into a powerlifting style split and away from bodybuilding, I'm really excited about the changes that are gonna be coming. I hope you guys follow along with this journey towards the competition stage. Again, for the first time in 3 years. I know I'm excited and I've got some really big goals and I hope to bring you along with me. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and tell your friends because maybe they want to learn something along the way too. Stay strong.